Hi guys, welcome back to Ash Talks Basketball, and today I'm talking about every NBA team's New Year's resolution. 2023 just wrapped up and I've got a lot to talk about. A lot of things have happened so far in this season and there's a lot more to come. So I'm going to talk about one thing every team needs to improve, and without further ado, let's get into the video. The first team I have is the Philadelphia 76ers. And their resolution is getting past the second round. Joel Embiid's good. Tyrese Maxey is having a great season. So is Tobias Harris. And they've got a lot of great role players to go around those guys. But we still haven't seen this team get past the second round in ages. Since the start of the Joel Embiid era, we just need to see that they can make a dominant playoff run. And I think this is a year they can do it. They've got no James Harden messing up the locker room. And they've got a really solid team that we've seen that can work so far in the start of the season. As long as everybody's healthy, I think they can make a push for the third round. Although getting past Boston and Milwaukee will be a big challenge for this team. The next team I have is the Milwaukee Bucks, and their resolution is just to win a championship. They've got the pieces, they've got the team, they just need to win it. I've seen a worse Milwaukee team win a championship in 2021. Adding Dame should be no problem. They've got a great team. The question is, will they perform against really strong teams like Boston or maybe Denver in the finals? The next team is the Chicago Bulls. And their New Year's resolution is to get a good return for LaVine and DeRozan. We all know it's happening. The trade is inevitable. They just need to get a good package out of this. Drummond's been looking great for them, and I do think they're going to make a decent push, but I don't think it should involve LaVine and DeRozan. You don't have to start a rebuild, but I just don't think the future of this team involves DeRozan or LaVine. I love the rest of this team. Kobe White's looking like an all-star when he's got the team to himself. Patrick Williams is still a good defender. Ayo Dosunmu is looking up like a really good bench player. Obviously, this team's not going to be good, but they haven't been good in years, and this team's not going to be good if they keep LaVine and DeRozan. They're going to have to start a rebuild, and I think they've got great pieces to already start after they trade people like LaVine and DeRozan. And I think Vucevic should also go. He's not in the timeline. He's a bit too old for the timeline they need. They should just get a good return. They're going to still have a good team, but just a few picks. And they're going to have a young team to develop. And once Lonzo's back, they're going to have a pretty solid team, plus the picks they got in return for their three players in Vucevic, DeRozan and LaVine. For the Cavs, their New Year's resolution is to be healthy come playoff time. This is probably going to be the last year of Donovan Mitchell on this team, and I think they need to make it worth it. They've got a good team surrounding him. Okoro, Garland, Mobley, Allen. This is a good team. Obviously, they're not contending for a title, but I hope they're all healthy and they can make some noise in the playoff, because that would be a good ending to the Donovan Mitchell era. They're going to get a good return and they're still going to be contenders, but this is the best chance they're going to get while Donovan Mitchell's still on their team. And I think they can make a run maybe to the second round where they could fight a team like the Cavs or the Bucks or the Philadelphia 76ers, maybe push them to 6 to prove that they are a top 4 side out east. And right now the East is stacked, so that would be huge for the Cavs. The next team is the Boston Celtics, and their New Year's resolution is to win a championship. The same as the Bucks. They've got the pieces, they've got the team. Jason Tatum's great. Drew Holiday's a great defensive guard. Jalen Brunson can give you 30 any night. So can Kristaps. They've got the team to do it, but will they do it? They've got a lot of good teams fighting for it, like the Bucks or the Denver Nuggets. It's going to be a trek, but I think this team is good enough to win it this year. The next team is the LA Clippers, and their New Year's resolution is to make the Kawhi era worth it. This is their best chance at it this year. They've got a big three in Harden, Kawhi, and PG. They've got a great team, and they've got a lot of talent. But can they do it? I think they can make it into the playoffs. Everybody's looking healthy. And if they are healthy, they're one of the most talented teams in the league. The question isn't can they do it, and the question is will they do it? And I think the answer to it is no. They've got a lot of talent, but we haven't seen that they can win big games. This Clippers era of Kawhi has not worked yet. Obviously, injuries have played a big part, but consistency has too. And having someone like James Harden on your team and talking about good consistency does not go well together. They're all skilled but inconsistent. Westbrook, Harden, Kawhi, PG are all known for being pretty inconsistent, and this is why this team will probably not work, and they're going to have to find their way back from this, because I don't think the Kawhi Leonard era is going for too much longer. The next team I have is the Memphis Grizzlies. Their New Year's resolution is to make the playoffs. They've got a really good team, but they started off the season horribly. Ja Morant coming back added a lot to their team, and they've been winning games ever since. But since a really bad start, can they bring it back? They've got the skill to, but can they close such a big gap? Ja missed a large portion of the season, and do they have the skill to close the gap? And I think the answer is yes, but they have to be very consistent for the rest of the regular season. The next team is the Atlanta Hawks, and their New Year's resolution is to get a good package for DeJounte Murray. I know they're a talented team, but they started the season so badly, 12-17. They're not going to be any higher than the play-in tournament, so I just think you have to cut it while you can. DeJounte will get a good package, and you can start building around Trae Young with better players that will fit his play style more. We saw that DeJounte Murray just didn't work. It was a good try, but you kind of wasted 2 years with Trae Young, and I think that might come back to bite them in a few years if Trae Young demands a trade. The next team is the Miami Heat, and their New Year's resolution is to have playoff Jimmy. He's so good in the playoffs, although he's not consistent in the regular season. That does not matter. He is one of the best playoff players ever, and he can take any team to the promised land, and I think he has the skill to bring them to the finals again, but I don't think it's gonna happen this year, and you're gonna need a lot of playoff Jimmy to win a series against someone like Philly or Milwaukee or Boston, who are all looking really good. But knowing Jimmy, he can do anything in the playoffs, and you have to keep your eyes open for the Miami Heat when it comes playoff time. The next team is the Charlotte Hornets, and their New Year's resolution is to get the number 1 pick. They're going to be a top 4 lottery team anyway, and they're just hoping for that number 1 pick. They're going to be bad this year. We've already seen them suck through the first 30 games, and I have no expectations for this team. Their other New Year's resolution could have been to have a healthy LaMelo, but a healthy LaMelo's not going to help this team. This team sucks, man. They're just going to get the number 1, 2, 3, or 4 pick, hopefully for them, and they'll be on their way to starting a rebuild with LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and whoever they get in this draft, and that sounds like a pretty good team going forward. The next team is the Utah Jazz, and their New Year's resolution is to not win too many games. That might sound a bit stupid, but I don't think this team has above 10th seed potential, and I don't know why this team would want that. I think they want a high pick in the lottery. They still got a way to go with this roster before they start inching away from the rebuild. I think they need a few more first-round picks, a bit more development. Someone like Keontae George is definitely going to help their rebuild, and if they can get another gem in the draft, that will help them start building back to a top team caliber. The next team is the Sacramento Kings, and their New Year's resolution is to prove that they can make some noise in the playoffs. Obviously, I don't think they will win it, but I think they have enough to make noise in the playoffs. Maybe a Western Conference Finals matchup, maybe against Denver. I think they have that potential to go that far in the playoffs. I think this year is just going to be another building block towards a title contender. They've got a lot more development to go. They've got some young guys, but I think this team has title aspirations in the near future. The next team is the New York Knicks, and their New Year's resolution is to prove that the OG Anunoby trade wasn't a mistake. I personally think the Raptors won that trade, but OG Anunoby is still a great player and this team can work with him. He's a great defensive player, which is something the New York Knicks kind of need, and I still think they can make a playoff run and they can win multiple games against a good team. Jalen Brunson's still good, Julius Randle's still a great scorer, but I just think they need to prove that this trade wasn't a mistake, which most people are not believing right now because they gave away Immanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. Immanuel Quickley had great potential, so did RJ Barrett for someone like OG. It was a win-now move, but I still think they could have gotten more out of it. Someone like maybe Zach LaVine for a trade package like that. The next team I have is the Los Angeles Lakers, and their New Year's resolution is to win a chip with LeBron. This might be the last year of LeBron in LA, and I think they need to make the most of it. Although this is pretty ambitious and there's a lot of good teams they need to beat, I think they have the potential. It's going to be unlikely, but I'm hoping they can make a deep playoff run with probably their last year with LeBron James, before he's a restricted free agent and he will probably go to wherever Bronny James gets drafted. The next team I have is the Orlando Magic, and their New Year's resolution is to hold their playoff spot. So far, they've been so good this year, and I think they have a really good chance of making the playoffs. But the East this year is so competitive, and it's going to be a fight for it. And holding this spot will be a huge step in their rebuild. They've got a great young team, and this is another building block on their way to contending. And it's a huge one, taking from one of the bottom teams last year to a playoff team, and that's a huge jump for a rebuilding team and a great sign for the Orlando Magic moving forward. The next team I have is the Dallas Mavericks, and their New Year's resolution is to make a deep playoff run. Anybody with Luka can make a deep playoff run, plus Kyrie Irving, who can win any game on any given night. And they've got great role players around him. Dante Exum looks great. Derek Lively's good. Tim Hardaway Jr. can score 30 a night if he needs to. And I think this team has good potential. But as I've said before, this year both conferences are going to be really hard to win. And I think Dallas has the potential, but will they be able to stack up against teams like Denver, Sacramento, and Minnesota, who will all be fighting for a deep playoff run? The next team is the Brooklyn Nets, and their New Year's resolution is to choose a direction. Are they rebuilding or are they going for it? And I think there's only one answer to that question, and they've got to start a rebuild. They've got a few good players, but these players do not have enough to become a good team, and you don't want to become a Raptors or a Bulls where you just sit there for 2 years waiting for something to happen, because that just doesn't work. Being mediocre constantly won't work, and I think they've got to find their way. Cam Johnson's good, Mikal Bridges is good, Cam Johnson is good, but it's not gonna work by just sitting there waiting for people to improve. It's like counting your chickens before they hatch. It doesn't work, and you've got to find a way to bring this team back to contention, and just waiting for this current roster to improve and get a playoff spot won't work, in my opinion. The next team is the Denver Nuggets, and their New Year's resolution is to win another championship. They've got the team to do it. They're probably the favourites to come out west. Jokic is still one of the best players in the world, and I think they have a legitimate chance to win another championship. Their team hasn't changed much, although they lost Bruce Brown, who which could take a hit, I still think they are title contenders and have a really good chance at going up against someone like Boston or Milwaukee and winning that series. The next team is the Indiana Pacers. And obviously they don't have what it takes to win a championship yet, but I think they have what it takes to make some noise in the playoffs. They could win a series if they dominate. Tyrese Halliburton has the skills to win a game just by himself, and this team is really skilled. Although they're not there yet, I think this is a really good stepping stone to improving this team, and I think in the near future, this team could be contending out east. The next team is the New Orleans Pelicans, and their New Year's resolution is to have a healthy Zion. He needs to be fit and he needs to be ready to play games because this team is making a playoff push this year. They've got good talent, but because of a stacked West, they're going to struggle to make the playoffs. I think they can, but they're going to be in the play-in race fighting for a lower seed, and they're going to need a healthy Zion to do that. The next team is the Detroit Pistons, and their New Year's resolution, well, at this point, they have none. They're going to lose. That's not a New Year's resolution. That's a fact. They're going to lose. They're going to get a high draft pick and probably suck next year. I'm sorry to Pistons fans, but yeah, we technically did lose to them. And as a Raptors fan, I'm appalled. But I'm sorry, you're not winning much games next year. For the rest of the season. You might break the record, you might be embarrassed, but at least you're getting a high draft pick. The next team is the Toronto Raptors, and their New Year's resolution is to continue to build around Scotty Barnes. And this team I've been watching for a few years now, and I'm just sorely disappointed. We put up great games like our Boston game, like our Cleveland game, and then we throw up utter garbage. We played Charlotte and lost when they didn't even have LaMelo, and we were the first team to lose to Detroit in over 2 months. I'm disappointed in this team, and I'm hoping this trade for Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett helps, because right now I am despising what this team is doing. Darko Rajokovic seems to be struggling in his first season. I loved Nick Nurse. I thought he was good for the team. I know we kind of had to move on because we're moving into a Scotty Barnes era, but right now I would rather Nick Nurse over Darko. He's been good, but I think Nick Nurse was so good as a coach, and I just don't understand why we had to move on. The one plus side is I think we kind of fleeced the Knicks here, and we got a great package, but I don't think that's enough to start moving into the playoff picture, and I think we had to take a step back to take 2 steps forward, and right now with that trade, we took half a step forward. I'm confused what we're trying to do. I think a Pascal trade is incoming, but right now, I just want to see what we have in store for the rest of the season, and as a Raptors fan, I'm hoping it's something good. The Houston Rockets are next, and their New Year's resolution is to continue to develop the young guys. They've got a lot of good veterans on this team like Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, and I think they just need to develop their young guys. Sengun, Jalen Green are all really good, but they need a bit more time to develop before this team is considered a playoff, let alone a play-in team. I think this team could clinch the play-in, possibly, and I think they have a good chance too. But I see them struggling when it gets to the play-in because there are so many talented teams out west, and I just don't see them getting past the play-in. The next team I have is the San Antonio Spurs, and their New Year's resolution is to just develop Wemby. They've got some good young guys like Sohan, Vassell's good, but there's nothing other than Victor Wembanyama that should be important to this team right now. He's an amazing talent, but I just don't think this team is there yet. And we've seen this happen with other star young players where they just don't get the help they need and they end up leaving the team. And I think the Spurs need to start developing a skilled team around Wemby before he leaves, when he becomes a star and when he becomes starting to struggle in San Antonio, when he doesn't have the help he needs, because they're already complaining that Wemby's not getting the help he needs. They're complaining that he's not getting passed to, which right now confuses me a bit, because obviously he's not a star in this league. Yeah, he's good, but you need to tone a rookie and let him learn the ways of the NBA. He's good, but he shouldn't be having a usage rate higher than someone like LeBron, Giannis, Steph, and he still has a very similar usage rate, which is insane for a rookie. He's got a lot to develop, but he's already so skilled. They've got to build a team around him before he walks in free agency or a trade demand. The next team is the Phoenix Suns, and their New Year's resolution is to be healthy. But it's kind of more than that. Is this team a team that can win the championship? And I think the answer is no. Although they are inconsistent with injuries, if they're all healthy, I don't think this is a championship winning team. I think they can contend, but their defense is lackluster. I've been watching them. Jusuf Nurkic is not a defensive anchor that will work for a playoff team. And when it comes around playoff time and they need strong defenses to close out games, a big three of Beal, KD, and Devin Booker with Jusuf Nurkic as your defensive anchor just won't work. The next team is the OKC Thunder, and their New Year's resolution is to continue improving. This is a great young team that's already showing great promise with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, both of the Jalen Williams, Lou Dort, Josh Giddey are all great players, and this team seems set to move on to a playoff contending team. And with such a young team, I think this team could become a dynasty. Chet Holmgren could be one of the best players in the league. So good Shea. And they've got such a good supporting cast that I think they could win multiple championships in the coming years. The next team is the Minnesota Timberwolves, and their New Year's resolution is to continue their hot streak. They've started off the season so well, so much above everybody's expectations, so far above my expectations. They have only lost 8 games so far this season, and I see them being a top 5 seed. But can they continue this hot streak? And I think they can. 30 games in and it hasn't broken, and this just seems consistent for them. I think they can be one of the best regular season teams in the league this year, but the question is playoff consistency, and we'll see that come playoff time. The next team is the Portland Trail Blazers, and their New Year's resolution is that Scoot Henderson continues to perform after having a slow start to the season. Although he started bad, his last few games he's looked really good, and finally I think he's starting to get a bit of form. I think Scoot can be really good, and I think this year may have looked bad on the start, but I think he could be a top 3 rookie by the end of the year. He has the skills, and I think this is a great developing year for him, because right now the Blazers aren't very good, and I think they just need to use this year to develop their young guys. The next team is the Golden State Warriors, and their New Year's resolution is to salvage this season, because right now it's been awful. And if you told me at the start of the season, I would have thought, oh, well, Chris Paul went badly. No, he went fine. It's Klay Thompson struggling to shoot, and Andrew Wiggins struggling to generate anything called offense, Draymond Green punching people in the face, and an offense that just doesn't work and too reliant on Curry. And we've seen that because Curry's been awful in terms of efficiency, because they only have to guard one player. People have been scoring, but nowhere near as much. Curry's good when he has other players like Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins to help him score and take off the load, and has passing and helps with the screens. Draymond Green's great on defense, which they've been struggling with, and being this reliant on Curry just doesn't work, and we've seen that. So they need to find some sort of way to fix that, because their second best scorer is meant to be Klay Thompson. And right now, this team is struggling to make the playoffs because they have a negative record. Pods has looked good, but he is not a number 2 scorer on a championship contending team, and we need to see better from them. The last team I have is the Washington Wizards, and their New Year's resolution is to lose. They've got 2 good players on their team, and one of them's playing well. Kuzma's looked good, but other than that, they're going to suck this year, and they're going to get a high draft pick. And that's that. I have nothing more to say. This team should tank, and they're going to start the rebuild from there. And that's all I have for you today. So thank you for watching the video, and have a nice day.